Hey everyone, welcome back to Just For You Studios. I'm Luke. And today, instead of a review, which I haven't done in quite a while, we're gonna do something a bit more interesting. We're gonna be doing a franchise retrospective on Halloween, because there's gonna be a new Halloween film coming up very, very soon. In fact, depending on when this video comes up, it might be this day. But yeah, we're gonna be doing a retrospective on the whole franchise, because over the past couple of days I decided to watch them all back to back, and it is interesting to say the least. So let's not stall, let's just get right into it with the original. Alright, so the first Halloween film was made in 1978, directed by John Carpenter, and it is a classic in many sense, and I would even consider to say it really does deserve it. It sort of was building the foundation on films like Psycho, which in a way were like the origins of the slasher film franchise, and now this was sort of the perfect molding of it, the perfect shaping of it. And yeah, John Carpenter did just that. I love John Carpenter, by the way. He's done some of my absolute favorite films like The Thing, They Live, and this. I also love Halloween. I think like the thing that makes it most effective is that it isn't completely like overly coveraged and shot in a way where it's, you know, you can feel like it's a film. It still feels like a film, but has a little bit low production value, but in a way that gives it a certain vibe, a certain feel where you're still engaged in it. One of my absolute favorite examples is during the moment where Michael Myers is trying to attack like Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's in the closet, and you can kind of almost feel like the camera like sort of wobbling as the doors are breaking down, and just the way it's lit, it just feels so perfect in that way. It does have flaws. I mean, some of the acting doesn't hold up particularly well some points, and it's kind of filled with cliches, but you know, again, it's like the genesis of those cliches, like the college students that sort of just happen upon the murder and whatnot. But you know, it's a classic. It's still very fantastic. It still holds up and has like a lot of creative uses of camera work and scares, and especially like that long take at the beginning. I love that long take. But yeah, it's a classic, and I would still say it holds up in many ways. And now from here it kind of goes a little downhill. Now we're on to Halloween 2, which was basically just a direct sequel from Halloween 1. Now, fun fact, the series wasn't originally going to just be about Michael Myers. It was originally going to be like an anthology series, like, you know, freaking Cloverfield or something like the Twilight Zone films. But for some reason, they decided, you know, let's just stick with the Michael Myers story. People really like the Michael Myers story. And so the second film is a direct sequel. And it's okay. It's fine. It has actually some fun scares and really does kind of keep a lot of John Carpenter's same sensibilities and stylistic choices, but it doesn't hold up that well in some areas, and there's some moments that are a bit, you know, unintentionally funny. But I mean, it has enough where if you really enjoyed the first film, it's a nice continuation of it regardless. Alright, so you may be wondering why I might have mentioned that little, you know, anthology fact at the beginning. Well, that's because the third film has nothing to do with the first two films at all, not even like slightly. It is a film about, well, a Halloween mask production company that's using their Halloween mask to basically infect children. And it's kind of great, actually. It's still very dumb, but I love just the weird, outlandish, surreal concept of it all. And it's really a nice change of pace from something that was pretty, you know, stone cold serious with the whole serial killer aspect in the first two films. But yeah, it is very weird, and it has nothing to do with the other two films, but it's a good amount of fun, I'd say. Okay, now this is where, like, you know, the series actually got kind of bad. One, great film. Two, you know, alright films. And now this is sort of just hitting the shitter a little bit. It's kind of boring. Doesn't necessarily have a whole lot going forward in terms of, like, you know, the lore of the first two films and whatnot. It just sort of goes on its own different path. And, you know, it seems like Michael Myers is incapable of dying, which, as you continue watching these films, you kind of wish he did, so it'd fucking wrap up at some point. But anyways, it's not particularly very good. It's got some interesting camera work occasionally, but not that great. Now, this is where it just got weird. This is really, really weird. So I guess, like, Michael Myers is now having some psychic connection with the child from the 4th film, and there's these weird, like, characters that are, like, relatives to our main character. Freaking, you know, Donald Pleasance is back, and he's acting a bit more weirder than ever. There's some fun camera work, though. I think this one has some of my favorite camera work of the whole series. It's very kind of claustrophobic and just jarring in a lot of ways, but it works well. But yeah, it's not very good. It's still not very good. It's all over the place. It has no idea what it wants to be, and it's a bit crap. Now we're on to the 5th film, which I would say, at least from a production value standpoint, like an overall filmmaking standpoint, is probably the worst one. It is batshit, just complete nonsense all the way through. Like, there's a freaking cult, there's a baby, there's something about, like, having to keep the baby alive. Michael Myers is just back in Halloween again. There's just so much stuff. I don't know, man. It is, I don't know. Alright, now, you know, there's been a good gap between, you know, the 6th film and Halloween 20 years later, or is it called H20, whatever it's called. And this time it seems like they sort of took it back a little bit. They got a new production company behind it. It's whole new people. Jamie Lee Curtis is back, you know. All the people are back. It's new and interesting. And I feel like this one's kind of a bit different in tone compared to the other films. Mainly just because this was like a couple of years after Scream came out, which I think was for a good benefit, because it's a bit more sardonic in this film and not as much like stone cold, you're gonna have to take this seriously, guys. It's super serial killer. It's fun, actually. It's a bit fun and has some genuinely insightful moments here and there. I also really love the cast, and also the fact that Joseph Gordon-Levitt shows up for about like 2 minutes, then dies. Nice cameo, I guess, before he got popular. But yeah, it's fun. It's kinda got that 90s cheese since it was, you know, around the time Scream came out. I mean, the end credit song is Creed. Yeah, that's how 90s this is. Yeesh. Anyways, it's fun. It was actually a big improvement on the last couple of films, I would have to say that. That's not saying much, but it is something. Okay, now we are on to the film I genuinely forgot was in the series, Halloween Resurrection. For one thing, this film is a complete lie in its advertising, because you see, like, aw, Jamie Lee Curtis is back with revenge, and she's gonna be ready for Michael this time, and whatever. She dies in, like, the first 5 minutes of the film. Yeah. Halloween Resurrection is also pretty terrible. It's sort of, you know, it's kind of got still some of that Scream vibe going on with it, except this time just not, you know, self-aware at all. It's like mainly around this whole plot of, oh, they're going into a haunted house and they're going to film it and stream it on the internet, which this movie was made in 2002, so my first thought was, how the genuine fuck are you going to do that correctly in 2002 internet? We do not have Twitch at this time, guys, so there's, what? And a lot of it kind of falls into, you know, like, usual horror cliches. And I mean, like, you know, cliches aren't, like, a bad thing in general, but just the way that they use it is so, you know, bland and uninspired. Like, hey, it's college students that are horny, and because of that they're gonna get killed for obvious reasons. Okay. Yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad. I don't have any other words to say about it. It's just bad. Okay, now we're getting into reboot territory. Sounds like the whole franchise is going complete garbage, right? Well, let's get a new director and get a different vision for it. And who better to do it than Rob Zombie? Oh no. Alright, so now we're on to Halloween 2007. I'm not opposed to reboots, you know, like, or remakes of, you know, classic films, if the way that they go about it is unique enough, or in some way, in, like, execution, or stylistic choices, or just overall story structure, unique and serves a, you know, a good film in and of itself, not something that needs to be compared to the original. And this one is unique, but not at all for any good reasons. It sort of feels like the first Halloween film had this sort of heightened, sort of unrealistic feeling of violence in it, but you could still get engaged in it. Like, it was still, you know, you still felt the danger. It wasn't, like, just overall goofy. And this one just kind of feels like violence, graphic violence porn at times. Just kind of a creepy degree. And I feel like they were trying to make a comment on, you know, violence in films in some way, but it just doesn't necessarily work all that well. It just kind of comes off as a bit fetishy. And God, does this movie drag. Like, the first 30 minutes are just setting up Michael's backstory, and it just doesn't really work very well. One other thing I can note is that this film has a bit of a disgusting style to it. And the style I would only describe as hillbilly grunge. Yeah, it's more just like gross, disgusting violence, like abusive characters all over the place. Nobody is like, I don't think there's like one likable person, at least for the first 30 minutes. Which, I mean, I guess that's, you know, movies can have unlikable characters and still have it engaging, but this was just like kind of vile, honestly. It's very long. It's like, it's 2 hours. It doesn't need to be 2 hours. It's so just kind of bloated in a lot of ways. And in all honesty, it just kind of has a lot of the same beats as the original film, except just not done as well, and kind of have, you know, unnecessary, gratuitous stuff. But, and again, like, it is unique enough where it's like, I could see why they would want to make a, you know, a reboot. It has a different style. But it's not a good style whatsoever. But then, out of nowhere, we got a sequel. Here's the weirdest thing. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is probably my second favorite film of the entire franchise, weirdly enough. And I'm kinda not sure why. For one, it actually seems like it takes its subject matter with a little bit of genuine gravitas and not just, let's just throw all this disgusting content at the viewer all at once. It actually feels like it's somewhat insightful in terms of the actual Halloween franchise. And for one, it feels like, in a way, kind of almost a commentary on, you know, the nature of, you know, slasher horror films and how, in a way, sort of irresponsible the way that they handle violence could kind of be. It also has some really nice use of 16mm cinematography. I really love celluloid cinematography in general. I feel like the way that they use it here is really kind of great in terms of the style that Rob Zombie wanted to go for. It still has hillbilly grunge style to it, but it's more restrained and actually kind of refined in a way, and not just, you know, guy yells at woman saying, "Where's my dinner?" You know, that sort of misogynistic sort of style. Not to say this movie doesn't have groan-worthy moments. There are some moments I could say are a bit edgy, but like, you can kind of see where it's coming from, honestly, and I feel like it doesn't necessarily stick the landing completely in terms of the message it was trying to go for, but it really was the thought that counts, and I feel like there was enough execution there where I'm still interested in it, at least. Also, there are some genuinely scary moments in this film. Like, there's kind of a dream sequence near the beginning that is actually pretty frightening in terms of the way that it's, like, shot and edited and the way that music is used, and the performances are pretty good overall. So yeah, weirdly enough, the series kind of ended on a pretty decent high note. Now I'm actually really excited for the new film, mainly because it gets rid of the canon of, like, you know, the sequel films of, Laurie and Michael, sister and brother sort of thing, and just, you know, completely ignores every single film in the franchise besides the first one, which I can completely go with. And also, I really like David Gordon Green. I think it's an interesting director choice for this film, because he's done stuff ranging from, you know, like art house independent features and, like, straight up, like, stoner comedies. You know, the two best things in life, I guess. But I'm excited to see what he does with the film, especially with the kind of, you know, like, subject, especially with, like, being 40 years after the first film. Maybe they should call this one Halloween 40 Years Later, age 40. But I'm excited to see how it turns out, and some early reviews have been saying it's actually really good. So I'm excited to see it, and to see, like, you know, what they do with John Carpenter's original classic. Anyways, have a good rest of your day, and see ya.